When Team Canada looked down and out in the biggest hockey series in this country's history, Paul Henderson rose to the occasion and bailed his club out. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show coming up. Welcome to the program. We are very excited to have today's guest on the show. He was born in Kincardine, Ontario, a blazing fast left winger. He won the Memorial Cup in Hamilton. He played 19 seasons in the NHL and the WHA, a two-time NHL All-Star. He scored 30 or more goals 4 times. He played 1,067 major pro games, 376 goals, 768 points. He is a member of the International Ice Hockey Hall of Fame, a member of the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame, a member of the Order of Ontario, member of the Order of Canada. He scored the biggest goal in Canadian sports history. Ladies and gentlemen, pleased to have on the program, Paul Henderson. Paul, welcome.
Good to be here.
So tell us about growing up in Kincardine and making your way to the NHL. How does that happen?
Well, I actually was born on a sleigh out in Lake Huron. Didn't quite make it to the Kincardine Hospital. That's where we were heading. But basically grew up in Lucknow, Ontario, which is about 15 miles from Kincardine. We didn't have artificial ice back then, and played most of my hockey on ponds and on the road. They didn't sand them back then, and so most of my hockey was with a pair of boots on, because I never got a pair of skates till I was 9.
Holy cow. I mean, compare that to today's kids who are skating when they're 2 or 3 years old. That's unbelievable. So I like that story, Paul, because I read about it. You were born actually on a sleigh. Your mother is on her way to Kincardine to the hospital to have you, but didn't quite make it. Tell us about that.
Well, my dad had gone overseas in September of 42. And mother was pregnant, obviously. And this was January 28th, 1942. And about 1 o'clock in the morning, my mother she was staying out at the farm, just below, about 10 miles south of Kincardine. And my grandfather and grandmother hitched up a team of horses. The road had a terrible storm, and the roads were all closed. So they went out on Lake Huron and went up the ice. And my grandmother told me later she was petrified that they were going to go through the ice. And anyway, I was born before we got to the hospital. But, the neat thing about it is the nurse that took me in my arms, she said I was almost blue and it covered with, blood and straw, because she was under a blanket. On her 90th birthday, I met her for the first time. And she says, I know all about you, Paul. I gave you your first bath.
Oh, wow. So this was later on when you got the chance to meet her after all the Team Canada stuff and everything else. She got to say, I welcomed him at the hospital and cleaned him off and gave him his first bath. That's pretty awesome.
It was her 90th birthday, actually. And her name was Dixie Bell. She never married. She was a nurse her whole life. Loved it, but never got married.
Wow. That's such a cool story. So you didn't, and your dad was overseas and he wasn't back until after the war ended. So that's when you get a chance to meet him. But you talk about skating on the ponds. And at one time, the way I understand it is that you were going to be a teacher. That was kind of the goal you'd set for yourself. But your dad talked you into giving hockey a shot. Tell us about that.
Well, I was actually playing Hamilton. By this time, I played junior A in Hamilton, and we'd actually won the Memorial Cup. And I had met my future wife by this time, and we knew we were going to get married. But I grew up very poor, and I was petrified of being poor. And my parents didn't have any money, and I knew I was going to have to put myself through university. And so I talked to Eleanor, who has been my wife for 50 some years now. And I said, I think that we're going to take the safe route. I'll get a job. And she said, well, she would too. And I'll go to university and get a degree and we'll make a life for ourselves. And so I actually phoned the Detroit Red Wings and told them I was not going to come back for my final year of junior. And I was going to go to university, get a job and go to university. And I knew I was going to have to tell my dad. So I went back up to Lucknow. We were in Hamilton at that time. And my dad was a big, aggressive man. And I was a little intimidated by him. And I was very worried about telling him this. But anyway, he said to me, Paul, I'm not sure you're making a bad decision. But the thing that worries me most of all, he says, every Saturday night when you see those guys skate out on the ice, you're going to say to yourself, I wonder if I could have made it. And he said, I know you, Paul. He says, I think you can make it. And I think you know you can make it also. But he says, I think it will drive you crazy. And so I thought about that. And I went back to my now wife, Eleanor, and I said, Eleanor, this is what Dad said to me. And she said the same thing. Paul, I think you're right. You've told me we've been going together all these years. And you've told me I'm going to marry an NHL hockey player. And so Dad says, why don't you play your last year, give it your best shot, try 2 years. If you can't make the NHL in 2 years, then you still have time to go to university. So I thought that was a good idea. But the thing about it, I went back for my last year and I really got serious about it. And ended up leading the league in scoring, first All-Star. And then fortunately for me, I was made the Detroit Red Wings the next year, and it's all history now.
Yeah, the next year when you did go back to the Junior Wings after winning the Memorial Cup, which was fantastic. Tell us about that experience first of all, winning the cup in Hamilton.
Well, it was a big deal. We ended up in fourth place that year because the Esposito and Hull and all the guys in St. Catharines, they were the best team. They were in first. Montreal Canadiens were in second place, and then Niagara Falls, and then us. Well, we had to play St. Catharines. One plays 4, 2 plays 3. And the team that we couldn't beat all year, we never beat the Montreal Canadiens, but the other teams we played well about. And we put St. Catharines out in 6 games. And then Niagara Falls put the Canadiens out. And we owned Niagara Falls. We beat them, took them out, and we never went past 5. We played 6 rounds, and we never went to 6 games a game. Everybody was in, all their, the better players were all healthy, and we came together, and Eddie Bush was the right coach at the right time. And so, yeah, well, a great thrill. Still one of the great thrills of my hockey career, winning that Memorial Cup.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think you might have beaten the Edmonton Oil Kings in the final. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, that was their other Detroit prime team also. And they came down here and we took them out in 5.
Awesome. Yeah. I was an Edmonton boy. I was a little sad about that at the time, but it's worked out okay for you. And like I said, 49 goals in 48 games the following year. You got the call up with the Red Wings in 1964. You helped lead them to the Stanley Cup final that season. Then on April 23rd, 1964, facing the Leafs in the final series, Game 6, up 3-2 in the series, Pitt Martin is going to spring you for a breakaway. We've got video here that Paul Pasco has provided for us, and here off the face-off in the Leafs zone. But I'm going to tell you something. We get an idea of what kind of wheels that Paul Henderson has. This is Pitt Martin springing you for the breakaway in behind the defense. And there you go, beating the great Johnny Bauer on the breakaway. That tied the game at 1 at the time. Do you recall that moment?
Oh, sure. Remember like yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And that, of course, later in the game, your future teammate, Bobby Bond, who had scored the overtime winner on a broken ankle. Like, when you guys went ahead in that game and then the Leafs came back and tied it, and then Bond scored this goal in overtime to win it for the Leafs. Tell us what it was like for you back then, and what was and later on, now that you've had a chance to sort of get to know Bobby and all the scenario around that. Tell us about what your thoughts were back then.
Well, and Bond did not have a great slap shot, right? And he was injured. But
right.
Bill Gadsby, one of the best defensemen ever played the game, a Hall of Famer, stick up and tried to knock it down, and he deflected it by Crozier. If he just let the bloody thing go, Crozier would have caught it. It wasn't that hard a shot at all.
Right.
And that, of course, that was the end of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, because at the time, I mean, you guys are up 3-2. You had a chance to wrap it up right there, and then that goal goes in. Of course, the rest is history. It sort of made a legendary man out of Bobby Bond, didn't it? Scoring a goal like that on a broken ankle.
Yeah, he's given me that a few times over the years.
Yeah, I guess he has. Well, eventually you made your way to the Leafs. What was it like being part of that huge swap? There was you, along with Norm Ullman and Floyd Smith, who would become the Leafs GM at one point, for Frank Mahovlich, Gary Unger, and Pete Stemkowski. Very big trade.
Well, I was devastated. Actually, in Detroit, about 6 weeks earlier, they said there was 3 untouchables in Detroit. This was an article in the paper that were Gordie Howe, Norm Ullman, and Paul Henderson. And I just, in young, and I'll play my whole career in Detroit, and I loved it. Gordie Howe, we just a wonderful team. But anyway, I woke up one morning, and Audrey McGregor, Bruce McGregor's wife, said, "Paul, I just heard on the radio that you, Norm Ullman, and Floyd Smith have been traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs." And that's the first time. And I was just, Joe, I never felt that kind of angst before. I guess no one had ever rejected. I never felt rejection. And that's all I could think about. Oh my God, they didn't want me anymore. As it turned out, it was one of the best things ever happened to me. But at that time, I was devastated. Really, really was. But, like everything in life, things that turn out you think are terrible turn out to be a blessing. And they were a real blessing until Ballard got a hold of the team, and then things went all to rat crap. Thank goodness WHA was around.
Well, that's right. We're gonna get to that for sure as we go chronologically here. But so you've got a chance, as you mentioned, you feel down because the team you feel like one team has given up on you. But on the other side of the coin, you've got a team that really wanted you and was willing to part with some big pieces to get you guys. And as it turned out, the Leafs, they did pretty well for a while until things fell apart. But you got a chance to play with your longtime line mates, Ronnie Ellis and Norm Ullman. Really good year in 71-72. You were an all-star in that season. You and Ronnie got an invitation to join Team Canada for the Summit Series in 1972 against the Soviet Union. Tell us about that experience. And there he is, the man of the hour. Tell us about that experience, being introduced here as a person who's going to be trying out for Team Canada, I think, at the time. But being introduced along with your line mate Ronnie and the rest of the folks here. Tell us about that 71-72 series and getting a chance to play for Team Canada.
Well, I think any athlete would love to put on the Team Canada sweater, represent your country. And it used to bug me that we couldn't, pros were not allowed to go to the Olympics, and the Russians were winning all the time. And most of us said, you play the big boys, we'll take care of that. And so, when they came out, like if they'd have chosen 22, 23 players, I would not have been on the team. But we had to have a training camp, had to get in shape and everything like that. And so they ended up naming 7 left wingers, 7 right wingers, and center icemen. And we really thought that they would invite our whole line. I really thought Normie and I we could play with anybody. and we were, we were good offensive players, but we were also very responsible defensive players. And but anyway, put Bobby Clark together with Ronnie and I at the start of the season. And after the first practice, we went out and had a couple of pops. I think Labatt's made them, but anyway, or Molson. And anyway, I said to them, let's really show these guys we can play hockey. I really would like to play in Toronto. My dad died in '68, and I said, I'm going to bring my mom down, and it would be great. And of course, Ronnie wanted also. And as it turns out, you didn't have to say much to Bobby Clark in terms of getting serious. And so when we went to training camp, I mean, we were at best we were fifth line, and at worst we were seventh line. And so we went with a determination to get into the Toronto game. And the old saying, you never know when opportunity is going to knock, but the secret is to be ready. And so we worked our buns off. And three of us came to camp in pretty good shape, a lot more better shape than a lot of people. And Ronnie and I were really, really fortunate that we got him because he was just a younger Norm Allman, a lot more aggressive, but a really good playmaker and a really good forechecker. So we didn't have that much of adjustment. And then as time went on, we played the first red-white game, get us some game. And our side won 5-3. I got 2 of the goals, and Clarkie got 1, and we had to play against Esposito's line. And it became obviously to us and everyone, we were one of the better lines in camp. And so as time went on, we knew we were going to play in Montreal. And we did play in Montreal. In fact, we were the only line that played all 8 games. And even in Montreal, Bobby and I scored, and we only had 1 goal scored against us near the end of the game. And so we put that hard work we put in, sure paid off. But we were fortunate, too, to have, because a lot of guys just couldn't find the right combination, playing with other people. And then, of course, a lot of them didn't like each other. And so trying to get along was really difficult. And so anyway, it's all in the history books now, and I'm not changing a bit of it.
You know what? It is amazing. You guys click so well, but it does make sense. I mean, you talk about success is when preparation meets opportunity. You guys were prepared. The opportunity presented itself, and all the stars aligned. But you know what? When you talk about you and Ronnie, and Clark being the great playmaker that he was, you guys have, well, for sure, you guys were the fastest guys in the team, hands down. And having a guy like that, like Clarkie's there to set you guys up, that resulted in a probably a great opportunity, great situation for you. But heading into that season or heading into that series, a lot of people, there were different camps, of course, but most of the prevailing idea was that Team Canada finally getting a chance for the pros to play against the Soviets, where Canada was going to show these guys a thing or two, and we're going to probably spank them pretty hard. A lot was kind of the prevailing notion. Was that the kind of notion you had going into the series?
Well, we knew they were good hockey players, but it's just like in the NHL today. First place team plays a 20th place team. They're probably going to win most of those games. And I really felt that if their goaltenders really had a great game and ours had an off night, they might win a game. But when you look at the firepower, you start with Cornway, Esposito, Mahovlich, and then you got Hatfield, Gilbert, and Rattel. You got Perreault and Martin. And so, in our defense was just outstanding. And so, I just didn't. I thought that the games would be close, but we would overpower them probably.
Well, and then you're heading to Russia after the first 4 games in Canada, and you guys are down and almost in a desperate situation. And then Phil Esposito had that speech in Vancouver. That seemed to rally and galvanize the nation a little bit in this. Did it galvanize the team as well?
Well, we didn't hear it. Like even Esposito didn't see it. The dumbest thing he ever did was not show it to us. But Esposito was our leader. We had 4 captains, but he was on and off the ice, he's unbelievable at that time. I really believe he was the best forward in all of hockey back in '72, and he just put the team on his back. But Johnny Esau, you got to give him a lot of credit. He didn't go on,
Yeah.
and people saw that, and I think it would have motivated us a lot better if we'd ever seen it. But Phil come in. I happened to be dressing beside him that game, and he said, "I gave it to the Canadians out there." And so, well, I know Phil, but I had no idea the way he said it. But I loved it when I saw the perspiration run out, and we're disappointed, and we're trying the best, and it's not fair, and we're representing our country, and that's when the people woke up. And I'll tell you right now, Joe, without those 3,000 Canadians coming to Moscow, I don't think we would have ever won that series. They were incredible. We lose the first game, played the third period almost shorthanded because of some bad goaltending. But anyway, we had to listen to the national anthem after the game. And so we're skating off the ice, and these 3,000 Canadians gave us a standing ovation. It was incredible. I can still remember. And then it was a miserable night in Moscow. Probably an hour later, we get back to the hotel, and there was at least 1,000 of these Canadians lined up. We got off the bus, and they went crazy again. Applauding, cheering. The fact that most of them were hammered out of their mind is beside the point.
Right.
But they sang the Canadian national anthem. The last 3 games, it's never been sung with more passion or vigor. I'm standing there, and I actually goosebumps on my arm. And they got involved in that. Thank goodness they were there, because we were down, and now we got to win the last 3 games. And I remember saying to Eleanor after we got back to the hotel, if we don't win the last 3 games, we're going to be known as the biggest losers in the history of Canadian hockey. And I think everybody felt the same way. And so, but Harry Sinden, and I remember we're going down before the 6th game. He come in and had a little talk, and he said, "Guys, don't even think about the next 2 games. We just got to win this," because he says we actually outplayed them for the first time. And I think we can win this game. So you guys go out there and win this game. If you win this one, we'll look at game 7 and then game 8. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, as a team, you guys, they had an advantage because they'd been playing together for a long, long time, where you guys were just thrown together at the last minute. So the fact that you were gelling and you were coming together, and that was evident in game 5. But we talk about the goals you scored in game 6, 7, and 8. But back in game 5, there was an incident in game 5, and you were flying into the Soviet zone. You get tripped up, crashed heavily into the end boards. Here's a call.
Went in heavily against the board and was hurt on the play. Play goes right on with Henderson lying on the ice. He went in head first on the board and was well shaken up on the play.
Now, you were looked in pretty rough shape there, and it was later said that that helmet saved you. Do you agree with that fact that without that helmet, you're not going to survive that crash?
Oh, I would have had a fractured skull for sure. I mean, I had a concussion. Jim Murray, the doctor, they finally got me off there and knocked me on the table, and he said, examined me. He says, "Paul, you got a concussion. You cannot." Now, just look at the back of my head here. What's this? She tripped me, and I was going so fast I couldn't do anything. Watch the back of my head.
Oh.
And I was like, I didn't have a clue. And the really neat thing about it, Joe, my wife, Eleanor, is just a great woman. And when I went down, and she, get up. She, I'm not standing in that hotel room by myself. Get up. She was petrified that she might have to stay in the hotel room by herself. But anyway, Harry Sinden come in, and Jim Murray, they were talking, and he said he's got a concussion. He cannot play. And I said to Harry, "Don't do this to me. Please, let me, I got a pounding headache, but let me get myself straightened here. But please let me come back." And he said, "Well, Paul, we sure as hell need you. And if you want to come back, I'm not going to stop you." And I mean, that's the reason I'm an idiot today. But
Yeah.
I would have never been today. I'd have never been allowed back on the ice. They got protocols for that. And it took me about 15 minutes to get myself straightened around. I had a pounding headache, but I went back and gosh, I had a breakaway. I think it was the first shift after I come back, and I blew it through Tretiak's legs and finished it off. And just so fortunate. Like when you look back at this, I just can't believe how fortunate and lucky I have been.
Well, the tea leaves came together, didn't they? So here's that goal that you were talking about. You return to the game, and Bobby Clark is going to spring you, and this is after that concussion. Here we go. There you go.
The group about my game was my strengths were I could shoot the puck, I was score, and that larger surface over there gave me a lot more room. But you see, like a pro, he would go end to end, and the only time I ever went end to end in my life was the goal I scored in the 7th game. But you play with better players, they'll get the puck to you. And so this was, I was very, very confident that, especially the guys I was playing with, and the large ice surface, because I could hurt you with my speed.
You talked about the effect of that game, and afterwards, the 3,000 people. Your longtime pal Ronnie Ellis was on the show a while back, and he said that really was the turning point. And he kind of reiterated what you said earlier. But let's have a listen to what Ronnie said about that moment.
We all felt we played extremely well. We controlled the majority of that game. We made mistakes for about 5 minutes, and the Russians are known to score in bunches, and they did. And they end up winning that game. And I'll say this too, Joe, as we skated off the ice, there were 3,000 Canadian fans that made the trip. And they just so happened to be at the end of the ice where we skated off. And they stood up and gave us a standing ovation. They knew we played well. And I think they just wanted to make sure we understood that they're still with us, they're still behind us. But now, my friend Joe, we had to win the last 3 games.
And that you did. Any doubt in your mind after having that concussion that you were going to come back and play in Game 6?
Well, I didn't know whether they were going to let me or not. I mean, Jim, said I can't play. And so, but Harry, I guess, he had to make a decision, and thank goodness he made the decision he did.
Well, not only did you play, but once again, you scored a huge goal. This picking off an errant pass in the neutral zone. And here we go. And you're going to step over the line. And as Foster Hewitt would say, he shoots. He scores.
What I was trying to do is just use the defenseman for a screen. And so I looked up, and unfortunately, I wanted to shoot it right along the ice and just inside the post if I could. And so I think that Tretiak was screened. Look at here. And I fired this thing.
Right.
And I don't think he saw it till it was almost by him, but it was a perfect shot. And, one thing I did have, I had a great, I could snap it. In fact,
right.
That was not a big slap shot. Took it back about 3 feet and nailed it.
That was a goal scorer's goal, Paul. No doubt about that. And using the screen, setting it up nicely. I like that. There's a bit of an errant pass, that backhand lazy pass by the Russian defender, and you picked that shot off and you scored. And that was a big goal. It was a game-winning goal in game number 6. Kept Canada's chances alive in a 3-2 victory, which brings us to game 7. Now you're tied at 3 late in the game, and this is, of course, another must-win scenario. Canada has to win this game to have any chance of winning at all. This was a beauty. This is just over 2 minutes left in the game, and this is a face-off once again in the Team Canada zone, and Henderson's going to get control of the puck, and we watch him go. Here we go.
That's the first time I've ever beaten 4 people in my life.
4 Russians, like a hot knife through butter. And beating the best goalie on the planet. I mean, that's pretty awesome. What would that feel like?
Well, I tell you what, the sad part, I scored 7 goals. 6 of them were really nice goals. The only garbage goal was the last one. And, Foster, Henderson makes a wild stab forward and falls. Now,
Yeah.
everybody wants to hear that, don't you? But then, and, I said to Eleanor after the game, Eleanor, I will probably never score a bigger goal in my life, because if I hadn't scored that goal, the last game means nothing. And 2
Right.
nights later, I score a garbage goal. And you got to be a real hockey fan to remember that 7th goal. But the last, even for a garbage goal, but it was, when it was voted the sports moment of the last century, I'm not going to change anything.
Well, as you say, I mean, you scored a lot of beauties on the way to that to the garbage goal. But listen, and once again, a goal scorer's got to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. So that you later called that goal in Game 7 your most satisfying goal ever. You still feeling that way?
Well, obviously, I mean, the magnitude of it. I had no idea the magnitude of it when I scored. Well, I knew it was a big goal. I mean, I'm not. And but the thing that it's just seemed to get bigger as the years have gone by. Like, I get fan mail all the time, and people that meet me for the first time, they got to tell me where they were. Yesterday, I was up playing the National Club. A friend of mine invited me up, and they had this little do, and there was 4 guys there wanted a picture with me. Oh, you were one of my favorite players, and in '72 we went crazy, and that was yesterday. And so 50 years later, it's still front and center in a lot of hockey fans' lives.
Well, for those of us who are alive, it's one of those things who were alive back then. It's one of those moments that just it was just etched in our minds forever. It's like the greatest moment in Canadian history. So we're going to get to the game winner. So, okay, you score the game winner in Game 6. You score the game winner in Game 7. Tied the series. The series is all tied up. Game 8 coming up. If the game had have ended in a 5-5 tie, which it was late in the game, the Russians were going to claim victory because they had scored more goals. Were you aware of that at the time?
I was very aware of it. They told us that, and here's our line was out on the ice. Clarkie, Ellis, and I, and we came off with about a minute left in the game, and Harry sent out Esposito, Cornway, and Peter Mahovlich. He started taking over from Frank, playing in that line, and but then Simon come down and he looked at us and he said, "You guys, if they come off, you guys are up. You finish it off." So we knew we were up. And we're sitting on the bench, and Joe, I can't even explain it to this day. About the 1 minute mark, I got to get on the ice. We got to win this game. We can lose this game. And I did something, Joe, I never did before. I never did it again. I started yelling at Peter Mahovlich, the left winger, to come off the ice. Can you imagine I do that? Peter comes off, and the Russians go down and score. I'd be living in Siberia today. But there's risk rewards in life. And it was just, I have to get on the ice. And the other thing, Joe, when I scored that goal and we get back to the bench, Harry said to us, "You guys finish it off." And I said, "Harry, I can't do it. I am done. I would be petrified to play the last 34 seconds. You put somebody else out there. I am done." And I knew I was petrified to play that. Can you believe that? I just scored that goal, and I didn't want to play the last. I knew myself. And I would say to you, after we got back into our dressing room, we weren't jumping around. We were just sitting back in our chairs, having a beer. And it was probably a half an hour before I took my skates off. We were just utterly, physically, emotionally drained.
But that's what it took, eh? Every ounce of energy you had to get that done. And isn't that crazy? Like, never before, never after did you ever call for a player to come off the ice and replace him. But there's something inside you that realized that was it.
Well, I can't even explain it to this day. Can't even explain. And Frank was sitting beside me. So, "What are you doing?" And I kept yelling. And so, anyway.
Oh, Vic, let's have a listen to that. Let's have a listen to that call one more time.
Well, see, I yelled at Cornway when I went over the boards. Cornway had it, and I'm a right-hand shot, and I was hoping that he would I could one-time it, but it was too far in front of me. And when I fell behind I said, I still got time. Went through the whole team, and then I got up. In fact, coaches have told me they've used this to show people get back up as soon as
Never
don't
give
stay
up.
down.
Yep.
Never give up. So anyway, I panicked. Actually, I saw Phil. Now he should have covered this. It wasn't a hard shot, but I panicked. Oh my God! And so I tried to put it right along the ice, and he threw out his pad and got it. And fortunate for me, it came right back, and then I had about a foot of empty space and put it in. And Joe, here's the other thing. When that puck went across the line, my father had died in 1968. And I said out loud, and I'd never thought of my dad, that whole series. It went across the line, and I said out loud, Dad would have loved this one. And then, of course, jumped into Cornway's arms, almost broke his back, and been riding it now for 50 years.
Well, it was something else. It really was. And so it was, in Russia, there's you and 3,000 fans celebrating. But back home, a whole nation is celebrating. Did you have any idea that it was as big a deal as it was back here?
No idea. No idea.
But when the day after you scored that goal back home here in Canada, did you know that your daughters were being interviewed at the time, Jennifer, Jill, and Heather? Let's have a listen.
Heather, what kind of a day did you have in school today?
Well, an okay day.
What was all the talk about today?
Can't hear the audio, Vic.
Well, how my dad played so good and how we got the last score.
Did you really think they were going to win all the time yesterday?
Can you hear it, Paul?
No, I didn't.
Who scored that last goal, Jennifer?
Paul Henderson.
Okay, Vic, let's play this again with the audio, see if we can hear it.
Did you,
Okay, yeah, Vic's just got to re-cue it up. Yeah, so we will. So.
Well, okay. Daryl and Wendy Sittler offered to come move into our house and take care of our children while we were away. The girls were Heather, and I think they were grade 3 and grade 1 at the time, and Jilly was just our youngest daughter was only 2. And so they actually moved into our house and took care of the kids. And so it's funny to look at that now, because the girls are all married, and we've got 7 grandchildren, and now we got 8 great grandchildren.
Oh my!
And,
yeah,
and very fortunate. And Jilly, the youngest one there, her 19-year-old daughter, was just down running for she was in Columbia, representing the under 20 women in the 100 and 200. And she went down there. She was 54th in the world, and she came back, and she's now, I think, 20th in the world in the 100 and the 200. So we got some athletes and her oldest boy, Alton, plays for Canisius over in Buffalo. He's on a scholarship over there, and he was Rookie of the Year last year, and it's going back to looking forward to having another great year now. So we got some pretty good athletes in the family.
In hockey or basketball?
Yeah, hockey. Oh yeah, hockey. He played for the Oakland. He played for the Oakville Blades for years.
Okay, right.
So
we're
going to be
Vic. Vic has got that clip ready now. Let's have a listen.
Heather, Jennifer, and Jill had this to say about the big game.
Heather, what kind of a day did you have in school today?
Well, an okay day.
What was all the talk about today?
Well, how my dad played so good and how we got the last score.
Did you really think they were going to win all the time yesterday?
No, I didn't.
Who scored that last goal, Jennifer?
Paul Henderson.
Who's he?
My dad.
Did you think it was a pretty good game?
Yes.
What about you, Jill? Did you like the game?
Yeah.
Who scored the goal?
My dad.
Now, Hockey Canada team is all finished for a while. Who are you going to cheer for now?
Maple Leafs.
You think they're going to win?
They better.
What about it? What do you think?
I think they're going to win too.
So bring back some memories.
They're all
for
in
you,
their
Paul.
50s now. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool moment though. But I mean,
Yeah, sure
back
is.
home in Canada, I mean, this was the story, and Paul Henderson's goal, and Paul Henderson's daughters got a chance to tell their stories. But you also did some commercial spots after becoming a household name in Canada, and here's one that definitely fit for you. Let's have a listen.
Paul Henderson talks about
helmets, the most controversial piece of your equipment. And after going through a lot, CCM is my choice. They take severe impact, they won't crack or shatter, they're cool to wear, and they're contoured to fit you. Don't take a chance with your helmet.
Of course, Paul Henderson's doing helmet commercials. Probably might have saved your life in Game 5, right?
You got it. You got it.
What are your biggest takeaways from your trip to the Soviet Union in 1972? What were the biggest takeaways for you?
Well, it made me very cognizant of the fact that we live in the greatest country in the world. I mean, the democracy we have, the freedom we have is, unfortunately, we probably take it too much for granted. But we got off the plane over there, and we're driving into Moscow, and I never saw one house. It was at night. And you would see the light hanging down from the ceiling in these apartment buildings, just a bulb. And I mean, they had nothing. And it was and the terrible part about us, the Russians have incredible museums, and we went to some wonderful ones on that. We'd pull up, and there'd be 500 people in line. And the army would go up, put with the rifles in front of the people in front, and they'd push them back, and they would let us go in. And I mean, we didn't even want to go in. We felt so bad for them, and nobody could say anything. If you ever said anything, you'd gone to, Siberia. And I mean, there was hardly anything in the stores. The food was awful. And the reason they lost that, they became, the Russians became, well, I just can't think of the word, entrepreneurs, whatever. Like we took food over there, and the Canadians were coming into our hotel and buying the steaks and from the Russians, and they sold them. So, but when they stole their beer, Joel, that was when it was war. It was all over after they stole beer. And they had terrible beer too. Thank goodness we took some.
Right, and there's some people were selling nylons. I remember hearing about, yeah.
Well, you were trading for them, and the best thing, my wife is, she took a whole suitcase of food over there, peanut butter and jam and everything, and people were coming around to our room trying to find food after a while because it was. And my wife grew up on the farm, and one morning they served her rotten eggs. We know what a rotten egg looks like. It was unbelievable. It was green, and they served it black on. It was just not good.
Oh yeah, I've had a rotten egg before, Paul, and it's not a fun situation at all. When you hear people complain about the state of affairs in Canada these days, and you go back to when you think there's so many places in the world, they're still going through what the Russians went through, or way back then, and it drives me crazy when I hear about people complaining about our state of affairs here, because we've got such an amazing country, don't you? Would you agree with that?
Oh, for sure, for sure. After I come home, I said if I ran a business and employed people, I would take them all over there and spend a week, and they would come back and they would have a total different attitude. And I do a lot of speaking, and over the years, and I tell people a lot of, man, we are so fortunate to live in Canada, and that's why I enjoy every day. You only have today, and the secret is to enjoy it. And obviously, too, that when you can be a blessing to somebody else, when you can help somebody out and make their life a little better, that's when you feel good about it. Yeah, it's great to score a goal, but I'll tell you what, when you can help somebody else, it doesn't matter. Just even a smile, a word of encouragement, a hug, and this stuff that we're going through now, it's been very difficult. And Eleanor, my wife, she got COVID, and she's 3 months. She's got this long COVID. And we get up every morning and we'll take our problems. I mean, she'll get over this eventually, but it's not been a great time. She's slept in the other bedroom because she does so much coughing and everything for 3 months. But when you look at that, I'll take my problems every day of the world and just realize how fortunate we are. And so, but I'm 79 now, and so I've made enough mistakes in my life for a lifetime. And so I'm going to enjoy every day. Every day I wake up, okay, I've got another shot at it. And as long as I'm here, it's going to be a good one.
You're looking fantastic, Paul. But I want to talk about coming home. You end up playing seven seasons with the Maple Leafs. You're listed as number 44 of the top 100 Leafs of all time when that was unveiled. Played another couple of seasons after that, but things got sour. Talk about what happened to the Maple Leafs, back in the 70s.
Well, I just unfortunately, here's a true story. Well, Ballard got a hold of the team, and I mean, his ego got the best of him. And I remember the WHA had been coming after me for years and wanted me to sign. And Johnny Bassett came to me after the series was over, and he said, "I'm bringing the team to Toronto, and I'd really like you to sign." And I said, "Well, I haven't won the Stanley Cup, and I would like to, but..." And he said, so we talked for a while, and he said, "Listen, Frank Mahovlich is I've already convinced Frank to come. Why don't you phone and ask Frank about it?" So I did. I phoned Frank, and I said, they've offered to double me, they double my salary that I was making for the Leafs and a signing bonus. And I said, "But Frank, I haven't won the Stanley Cup." And Frank Mahovlich said to me, "Paul, if you want to win the Stanley Cup, you better get out of Toronto, because if they don't have it upstairs, they'll never get it on the ice. And as long as Harold Ballard's got this team, they will never win it." And that was the deciding factor. I said, "Well, it's probably right." And is that prophetic or what? Frank Mahovlich said that. If you don't have it upstairs, you'll never get it on the ice. And that's why and it was the best thing I ever did. We had just a wonderful time in the WHA. We went down to Birmingham. My family loved it. And so, but you look back in your life and you say, the little things that people say to you, the advice, whatever it is. And that was the best move I ever made. Got out of away from Ballard. And then when you see with Keon and Lanny McDonald and Darryl Sittler, I mean, it's tragic the way the guy handled people. And there's no need of that.
Well, Frank Mahovlich was right, absolutely on the money, and he knew it, and he convinced you, and it turned out to be a pretty good thing because you had some good years with the first the Toros and then the Birmingham Bulls. What was tell us about your experience playing with the Bulls, and here's some video of that way back when. You had 37 goals in the 77-78 season, made the playoffs. Was Birmingham a good hockey town?
Oh, it was crazy. Well, we had contrast. One year we had the Baby Bulls. Remember they had Rob Ramage and Rick Vide.
Yes.
All these guys come, and they're just getting 18, 19-year-olds. And if we could have ever kept them together, we would have had an incredible team. But of course, they were just learning how to play the game. And that was the experience. But one year, Glenn Sonmore was our coach. And we had 5 guys on that team. None of them had played over 35 games, and they all had over 200 minutes of penalties. It was just bedlam out. I probably stopped 100 fights that year. It was nobody ever went near me. I woke up like no one would even come near me because they knew there was 5 or 6 guys on there that just hammered them. If you ever touch Henderson, you're in trouble. And so that's why I finally figured out why Gretzky loved it
Yeah.
in Edmonton. You know, if you touched him, you were in trouble. And so I had a great time.
Oh yeah, you have to answer to Dave Semenko or Marty McSorley. I mean, it's going to curb your appetite for fighting Gretzky. That's for sure.
You got it.
You over the years you've I know that your faith has played a big role in your career and in life after hockey, and tell us about your ministries and what you've done through them.
Well, I had a guy after Mel Stevens at Teen Ranch up here came to me, and this is January of '73. And knocked on my door, never met him before. And he said, Paul, would you consider working in my hockey school? We went up near Orangeville. And I said, yeah, I do that. What do you pay? And he said, well, we don't have any money to pay. We ask people to, donate their time. And I looked at him, do you not know who And then, Joel, this is ironic too. He said to me, Paul, I see you interviewed on television, and I've done a little research on you. They tell me you got a great family and that you're the toast of the country, but I see you interviewed. You always seem to have an edge to yourself. And he said, to me, you don't look like you're a very satisfied or very contented guy. And I looked at him and am I wearing a sign? No one had ever said that to me, but that's exactly what I was struggling with. Like as a kid growing up, Joe, I was after 3 things. I wanted to find a woman that I loved and have a good family. I grew up very poor, and I hated being poor. And I didn't want to be wealthy, but I wanted to have enough money that I didn't have to worry about it. And I could give my kids, what they wanted. And then I was hoping to have a career that I really loved doing. And so I'm the toast of Canada. I love playing hockey. I got the greatest woman in the world. In fact, I can tell you today, if I had a choice of all the women in the world, I could never have made a better choice. But I would say to Eleanor, there's something missing. I don't know what it is. So anyway, we get into a conversation. He said, Paul, you can learn to live lightly and freely, but you got to look at the spiritual side of the life. And I said, I'm not into spiritual stuff. I don't like politics. I don't like talking about politics or religion because all you get into arguments. And when he said, you can live lightly and freely, and he said, I'll meet with you if you want, and I'll explain. And I told him I tried to read the Bible. It didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And so he said, I'll get you a modern translation, and I'll help you. And Joe, for the next 2 years, I met almost weekly with Mel Stevens. And when you start out as a cynic, it takes you a long time. But finally he said to me, Paul, you got to just think about, is Jesus who he says he is or not? And so I probably spent 6 months just on, is he real? Is he not? And so actually March 12th of 1975, I said a prayer and asked the Lord to be my Lord and Savior and come into my life and change me from the inside out. And I want to have the peace that Mel's got inside of his life. And Joe, I said at that time, don't you ever expect me to tell any about this. I'm going to be a Secret Service Christian. And the only guy who knew that I was looking at this was Ronnie Ellis. He was my best friend. And we would go on the road, Joe, and I would take a Bible and I would put it inside a Playboy and I would lean against the window and everybody thought that I was reading a Playboy when actually I was reading the Bible. And that's how fearful I was of knowing anybody. And it actually took me about 3 or 4 days to even tell my wife that I decided to become a Christian. And then I finally told Mel. And then, after I retired, we went to Birmingham and I got a wonderful, got a mentor down there. And he really changed my life. We used to meet Monday mornings for an hour and a half. There was in fact, I was the oldest guy. I was 32, 33 at the time. And this guy changed my life and showed what it was to live with faith and honesty in your life and that kind of stuff. And then my pastor and him came to me after 3 years and said, listen, we got some new guys. We'd like you to lead a group. I can't lead a group. I've only been a Christian for 3 years. Anyway, they had more confidence in me than I had. And so I did it. The guys loved it. We got along, and and so when I retired, I felt that God was saying to me, come back to Canada and reach out to the guys that are successful, but don't have a spiritual side of their life, and their fears and everything like that. So in '85, I started with 3 men downtown Toronto, and after a while, let's have a breakfast. If you got some guys that are friends of yours that are out to lunch, come here and I'll share what we're doing, and you can tell why you come. And so I started off with 1 group, got 2 groups, and when I got cancer, I had 80 some groups going. And now today, we are in this called Leader Impact. We are in 77 countries, and we are 921 cities where we got men's groups now, women's groups, and even mixed groups. Because there's a lot of women now are CEOs and that kind of stuff, and they want to be around peer groups. And so it's just the mushroom like crazy. And I'll never retire. I just have too much fun and do a lot of, I still do most everything's on Zoom now. Actually, the best thing ever happened to us was these Zooms now, because my men's group, I've always had a men's group. This year I had 2 guys in Florida. I have 1 guy up in Manitou Island. And you can be anywhere. You get up and you put a shirt on and you're sitting here in your underwear and you don't have to go anywhere. So it's worked out really well for this.
You talk about being that guy who didn't want anybody to know, and I can relate to that. When I first got sober, I didn't want anybody to know about that either, because but it's the fact that 77 countries, thousands and thousands of people all over the world started out from this guy who didn't want one person to know. Don't tell anybody. I can't even tell my wife that I'm doing this. Right? That's a long way. You come a long way, baby. So you talked about your cancer. You've had health scares. The heart valve blockage, leukemia, cancer. Like, what got you through that? Like, how did you get through that? Because look at you. You look fantastic.
Well, it's the interesting thing, when you're not afraid of dying. Like, I have no fear of dying because I know where I'm going. That's what I believe. That's my hope in that. But it's my faith, and other people modeled it for me also. But the Bible, in fact, Jesus says, in this world you will have trouble. And so he doesn't promise us a wrinkle-free life. That's for sure. And you know that. But anyway, I have leukemia and I have a lymphoma. And I had lost 30 pounds. And I was diagnosed in '09, and they told me that I could have 5 years. And so my dad died of a heart attack at 48, my sister at 49. And so I'm 66 at that time. I make to 71. That's a pretty good life. And so anyway, the journey starts. And by 1912, 3 years later, I'd lost 30 pounds, and I was really in bad shape. In fact, one of my buddies at Mississauga, I played golf with him, and he went home and told his wife, he said, I think I played the last game with Henny. I think he is just, he's got that cancer look to him, and I don't think he's going to, I don't know whether he'll ever play a game. And then I got into this clinical trial down in Bethesda, Maryland. And that changed my life. I got into it and had some side effects, but this drug evened it out. And I had a lot of side effects, but since then, they've got some new drugs that have come out, and I'm on a new one now. And I don't have near the side effects. And so at this time, I still have cancer, but it's holding it at bay. And so I'm 79. I'm going to be 80 here in a couple of months. And so I'm just so thankful each and every day. And I start every day unashamedly. I ask for help. Lord, help me be the husband you want me to be, the father, now the grandfather. And I spend time in the Bible every day, and I pray for a whole raft of people. And the neat thing, Joe, is some of my best friends are guys that have come to faith, through the ministry and that kind of stuff. So I'm not hard done by. In fact, Joe, I could tell you, I wouldn't change places with anybody in the world today. I don't want to be a day over. I don't want to be a day less. And I can't think of anybody that's more fortunate than I am. Not a person.
Well, you have tremendous inspiration, and you never know who you're going to help. And I can tell you right now, our producer Vic is going to be very much helped by what you just told us about. Now, Paul, you've written 3 books: "Shooting for Glory," autobiography with Jim Prime, co-authored the 2011 book "How Hockey Explains Canada," an exploration of the relationship between the sport and Canadian culture, and most recently the memoir, "The Goal of My Life" with Roger Lajoie. Any more books on the horizon?
No, I've had enough of that. I'm ready to.
That's
I'm
enough?
ready to
Yeah.
sit back and enjoy it. Yeah, but I did this last book, "The Goal of My Life." I'm really, really proud of that. I spent a lot of time in it with myself, rewriting things and everything like that, and it explains my whole life. And neat thing, yeah. Very, very thankful, but there's no more books. I'll tell you that.
Okay. So you've received the Order of Canada, Order of Ontario, inducted in every Hall of Fame imaginable, the IIHF, except the Hockey Hall of Fame. Does that bother you?
Not one iota. In fact, well, people come up to me all the time and they say, "Change the name of the bloody place." They says, "You're more famous than most of the guys in there." But and I say this honestly, like they have got a committee, they got a selection committee, and they look at this kind of stuff. And so I got no problem, because there's a lot of players that have a lot better careers than me, and they're not in the Hall of Fame. And so it doesn't bother me one iota. Like you say, I've got everything in the world. And I tell people all the worst thing that could happen to me, put me in the Hall of Fame. And then nobody would be tipped up. Everybody would forget about me. But even the other day, it's a joke you're not in the Hall of Fame. And so, if they ever put me in, that would all go away. So I'm a lot better on the outside than I am on the inside.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the way the people you've had a chance to affect in so many ways, not just with the 72 series and scoring the game-winning goal in Game 6, the game-winning goal in Game 7, the clinching goal in Game 8, all that stuff. The people you've ministered to and affected and touched throughout the world. To me, it's like that's Hall of Fame material any way you look at it. And somebody had suggested too that perhaps Paul goes in as a builder. Well, no question, absolutely no question. Nobody has affected the game in this country or aspects of it than you have, hands down. And it's like to me, it is a travesty in that manner. Let's put it that way.
Well, everybody's got their opinion.
Well, you know what, Paul, Hall of Fame or not, you have made a great contribution to the game of hockey. You've made a great contribution to this country, and that's not lost on most Canadians, and certainly not with us. I want to thank you for taking the time to join us. Any big plans for the 50th anniversary celebration?
Well, we had a lot of plans to start with, but the war in Russia come along, and then obviously the election, and so it's really, we don't know. We've got a committee. There's 5 on the committee, and we were hoping to have an event in the 4 cities that we played in, but that's gone out, and now we just really don't know. But we're really up in the air. I hear the Mint is. I think this is official, and not exactly sure, but they're bringing out a coin, and going to bring out a stamp to commemorate. But I don't. And we've lost 10 guys now. There's 10 guys that have died off the team, and not in great health. So trying to get us together is like herding cats too. So it's probably good. If there's anything done, it's probably going to be done on Zoom, just like this, I would think at this point, because there's nothing definite.
Well, hopefully something is done, because maybe somebody can pick up the ball and run with this one. But anyway, thank you so much for taking the time to join us, Paul. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed this.
Okay. Well, I'll get out of my underwear now that we're off the air.
Okay, now I can't get that vision out of my head now. Or Or you reading a Playboy magazine with the Bible in it. That's pretty good. Paul, thank you so much. All right. We'll have more sports when we come back.
More Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show coming up after the break. Guests on Joe Tilley Sports receive a gift certificate from Classica Imports. Top of the line imported men's clothing. Check out the Classica Essential Collection now. Go to shopclassica.com. Addiction Rehab Toronto, Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center, saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca. Joe Tilley Sports is brought to you by COSA, Central Ontario Standardbred Association, providing a united voice for harness horse people racing at Ontario tracks. Check out your benefits today at COSAonline.com and check out COSA TV on Facebook and YouTube for all the latest harness news and live action updates. Live racing year-round. Go to hpibet.com for all your wagering options. Become a member today, and your first bet is free. That's hpibet.com.
Do you know why that happened? You didn't fix your ball mark. The birds around here are very protective of the course, and when people don't take care of it, this is what happens. It's pretty simple. Just find your mark, fix it, and at least one other. Hey, look at the bright side. We're not up on the northern course. They've got bears and moose. Visit moregolf.ca today. You'll find everything a golfer could need, from balls, gloves, and clubs to custom fitting opportunities and training gear. Go to moregolf.ca and get $20 off your first purchase of $100 or more. Just enter the promo code JT Sports.
I'm above average.
Okay, my COSA Swiss pick of the week. Last week, I went to Mohawk for Tuesday night's third leg of the Ontario Sire Stakes Grassroots Series for 2-year-old trotting colts and geldings. I took the number 2 horse, Tuscan Prince, who went off at 3-1. Bob McClure in the buggy, took the lead at the half, never looked back. Luke Blay, the trainer, the favorite, Hasty Bid, rallied for second. Floyd the Freak was third. That means I also hit the exacta and trifecta, getting that bankroll back up there. This week, I'm looking at Tuesday night's 8th race at Mohawk, 4th leg of the Grassroots Series for 2-year-old trotting colts and geldings. I like the number 3, Take On Me, with Louis-Philippe Roy driving. He was particularly impressive last time out. I also like that 3-5-8 exacta and triactor box. For all the racing updates, visit COSA TV on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Go to hpibet.com for your wagering options.
This is the Excellent Sports Adventure, brought to you by Lycom.
Well, they hadn't lost a series since John Schneider took over as manager, thanks to a wild win over the Twins at Target Field. And Whit Merrifield, who was getting jabbed for the cause, was out at the plate on a sac fly hit by Kevin Biggio in the 10th. But wait a minute. After further review, he was safe. Gary Sanchez illegally blocked the plate. The Jays win. The Jays win. They get a split with the Twinkies. Tim Meza is out with a separated shoulder. George Springer is out with elbow inflammation. But the Jays are still in pretty good shape. Kevin Gossman is the American League's Player of the Week. 14 innings over 2 starts with 15 strikeouts and no runs, just 1 walk. But you say Kikuchi's struggles continue. Well, the Argos managed to solidify their hold on top spot in the CFL East thanks to a big come-from-behind win against their old pals from Hamilton. Ticats had a 13-3 lead at the break, but McLeod Bethel Thompson slips away from the tackle. He's going to find Ken Phillips for the touchdown. MBT completed 17 of 27 passes for 230 yards. And a big night for the special teams group. Ticats' punt is blocked by Trevor Hoyt, scooped up by Benoit Marion, who takes it in for the go-ahead score. Argos roll 34-20. They're 4-3. Hamilton falls to 2-5. Another stunning performance by Nathan Rourke and his BC Lions. Got some new weapons back. Home to the Elks, Rourke, who was born in Victoria but grew up in Oakville, hits Dominic Rhymes, who goes way up to bring it down. Rhymes' 3rd touchdown catch of the half. Rourke was just getting warmed up. Looks deep downfield for Lucky Whitehead behind the coverage. This play covered 70 yards. He was good on 34 of 37 passes for 477 yards. That's a record for a Canadian quarterback. 5 touchdowns. The Lions humbled Edmonton 46-14. They're 6-1. Well, with the right pieces, things can change in a hurry. Just ask Toronto FC. They have pulled within 4 points of a playoff spot. Jonathan Osorio scored twice, and the Italian connection both hit the sheet. Federico Bernardeschi and Lorenzo Insigne gave the Reds a 4-3 win over Nashville. First road win in over a year. They're home to Portland on Saturday. Leylah Fernandez has rolled into round 2 at the National Bank Canadian Open Tennis Tournament at York University. A tough 3-set victory over Storm Sanders of Australia. Leylah's first match since recovering from a foot injury, and she really had to work for it. It's Final Four weekend in the Canadian Elite Basketball League. The Scarborough Shooting Stars booked their ticket with a 108-96 win over the Saskatchewan Rattlers. Cassius Robertson and Jalen Harris each had 24 points. They'll now face the Niagara River Lions in the semifinals. The Lions handled the Guelph Nighthawks 99-78. EJ Onu led the way with 28 points. The league-leading Hamilton Honey Badgers will face the Ottawa Blackjacks in the other semi. The semis are Friday. The final goes Sunday. A clash of Canadian super lightweights in Cornwall this past weekend. Local fighter Tony Louis squared off against Calgary's Steve Claggett. This was a long time coming. A terrific scrap. Claggett scored the 7th-round TKO victory, his 3rd straight win. He is now 32-7-2. Another top 10 finish for Brooke Henderson at a major, tied 7th at the Women's British Open. Now here's our shot of the week, courtesy our old pal Rod Black.
God damn it.
4!
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Competition. Today's environmental tip: keep your drinks in reusable containers. Instead of buying individually packaged drinks, consider buying a bulk container for your favorite beverage and buy a reusable bottle. Not only will this help the environment, but it will also help you save money. Rycom, passionate people who turn complicated business problems into simplified technology solutions for public and private sector real estate, properties, portfolios, and enterprise customers. Optimize and future-proof smart buildings from the ground up. The latest in fault locating, base building network design, managed services, cybersecurity, data analytics. Our fault detection will support all smart strategies, define projected outcomes for capital planning, and reduce environmental impact. Rycom, smart protection solutions. At Rycom, we're building a path to a smart and environmentally friendly future.
And we want to thank all the folks who make this show possible. These are friends, trusted business associates, and all-around great folks. We highly recommend them all. A reminder that the show is available on iTunes, Spotify, Breaker, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, as well as the Spanglish Network and Zingo TV and Buzz TV Live. Also, you should really check out our YouTube channel. There are past shows available, a weekly sportscast, all kinds of cool segments. like and subscribe. You know, it's free. Thank you once again to Paul Henderson for being on the show. It was an absolute pleasure. We want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week when Sandy Hawley and Don Lupo drop by for a Queen's Plate preview. We'll see you then.
Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show is brought to you by Brian Gribben Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in the early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today. Let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678. Do you want to buy or sell a home? Could 31 years of real estate experience help you? Why not speak to an amazing team that loves to overpromise and overdeliver? Aldo has a tremendous team of experts on staff. They are committed to making your next real estate transaction smooth and comfortable. Call 416-GET-ALDO or visit getaldo.com. MNP, a leading Canadian national accounting, tax, and business accounting firm. MNP proudly serves and responds to the need of their clients in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Through partner-led engagements, MNP provides a collaborative, cost-effective approach to do business and personal strategies to help people and organizations to succeed across the country and around the world. With local offices in Oshawa, Mississauga, Burlington, and more, their team is here to support you. Visit mnp.ca today to learn more.
Hi, I'm Joe Tilley. This November, join me and my wife Penny Claire for a trip of a lifetime. 2 weeks in Egypt and Jordan. Imagine yourself riding a camel beside the Great Pyramids, cruising the Nile River, viewing the temples at Abu Simbel, exploring the desert at Wadi Rum, visiting the ancient city of Petra, and swimming in the world-renowned Dead Sea. Only $41.99 all-inclusive with direct flight from Toronto, free upgrade to 5-star hotels, and the cruise. Visit tripoppo.com and book today to get an extra $100 room bonus credit. Let's travel.
The UPS store in Brooklyn wants to help your small business thrive. We offer shipping and more, like our pack and ship guarantee. Plus, we offer graphic design services, fast digital printing, secure document shredding, and mailboxes with a real address. Visit 31 Baldwin Street in Brooklyn, Ontario. Say you saw this on Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show, and we'll tell you how to save 10% every day.